Alright, so this week I'm going to start with the chapter that I felt was the, not necessarily bad, but the worst, and that was the fairy tale chapter.
Yeah, let's just get it out of the way again.
Last week we did that because it was an atrocious chapter. This week, it was decent, and if you wanted to compare it to last week, it was, like, almost amazing. That's how much better it was, but it was, the key points to note is, one, this is 20 minutes before the face timer hit 0.
Right.
So, this leads me to believe that that face is going to activate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens, what this is focusing on, is the fight between Natsu and Mark Gears. Which is surprising that Natsu's not on some friendship BS and laying Mark Gears, like, just pounding him down. No pun intended.
Uh-huh.
So, it's surprising that Natsu's getting his butt kicked. For the most part.
Yeah, thank God.
And then I was kind of like, I had mixed feelings when Sting and Rogue came in to help him. Because I'm like, Natsu's stronger than both of you together, so how much of a difference can you really make?
Right.
But I mean, the sheer fact that it was 3-on-1, obviously improved their situation.
Sure.
Now, another thing to note was that you were showcasing the fight between Igneal and Acnologia. And Acnologia was throwing Igneal for a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the two most intriguing parts of the entire chapter, Acnologia finally speaks for the first time in the entire series. Because he acknowledges Igneal as a worthy opponent. And not just, trash. Or bugs. However, he sees humans. So, that is just awesome. And the other important thing to note is that by the end of the chapter, 3-on-1 fight was so much. Mark Gears had so much trouble beating the 3 Dragon Slayers that he actually is, as in his words, feeling an emotion he thought he got rid of, and that was anger. And he's about to get serious. So that's interesting, because it's like, really? So then, what does that mean? Like, in the end, it's going to be all, like, for some reason I was thinking, like, oh, does this mean now we have to wait for the other, it's going to be like we're going to have all the other Dragon Slayers come back, and it's going to be a 7-on-1 fight? You friggin' bringing Cobra 2 for a 7-on-1 Dragon Slayer versus Mark Gears fight? Like,
that would be nuts.
That would be too chaotic. Way too chaotic. Because, well, first of all, that can't happen because Wendy is way too far away at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Second, Cobra's still in jail, and none of the council members are nearby to do anything to bring Cobra there.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing is Loxus is still out from his fight many chapters ago.
Right.
Many chapters ago when he got his butt kicked. So he's not in fighting shape. So at most, and Gajil's still, heavily injured from his fight as well. So at this point, then that's why I quickly realized that no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that, all of a sudden now he's that he's about to get serious makes it very intriguing to see how much more powerful he's going to become now that he's going to go serious.
Yeah.
Because if Natsu alone couldn't make him serious, and Sting and Rogue together couldn't make him go serious,
not to mention the Celestial King
couldn't make him go serious. Makes me question how powerful he is. Now, some people are saying that, they're going to somehow defeat Mark Gears before Face goes off, and then or just as Face is activating, and when Face activates, it's going to and Mark Gears being defeated at the same time is somehow going to trigger End coming about, but I don't see that happening because if the Celestial Spirit King couldn't make Mark Gears go serious, then that tells me Mark Gears is a lot more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. Now, what I can see happening is maybe when Face activates, Mark Gears becomes the vessel of, and like kind of like a sacrifice to resurrect End. So then, kind of effectively removing him as a threat. You know, not having to worry about him and End. Because kind of like what they did in Naruto with the whole, you know, Madara, and Kaguya thing.
Right.
But not as sudden. Because, I mean, honestly, I think people are if that actually happened where, you know, the spell that brings him back is activated when Face does, and Mark Gears ends up becoming End, or whatever the case, sacrificed, or whatever, that wouldn't surprise me. Because right now, they can't beat Mark Gears. And if End is supposed to be much more powerful, they can't handle them both at the same time. Especially since Igneal is busy with Acnologia.
Oh, but they will.
Oh, but
No.
they will handle it.
Yes, because they're probably going to do some friendship BS.
Because it's very Tato.
They should call it friendship BS.
Friendship tale?
No, not even friendship tale. Friendship BS. Because that's what it is. Like, at this point, it seems impossible for them to defeat Mark Gears before Face is activated. Let alone beat Mark Gears at all, who was supposed to be weaker than End. Now, since this isn't, or at least hasn't been stated as a final arc, I'm still sticking to my fact that if End is resurrected in this arc, that he's going to just fly off somewhere for, like, and then, like, another 2 or 3 arcs down the road, then he comes back and they fight him. Because, I mean, of course, that also depends on what End ends up being. You know?
Right. Other than what he's been professed to be as aka a flame demon.
He's a flame demon. We know that he's a flame demon. That's a fact. And I forget where, but at some point this past week, I saw a video that someone, I think it was in the review for this week's chapter for Neverworld. He posted a link to a supposed picture that was drawn which is supposed to be a character, or supposed to be drawn by the author of the series, and it's supposed to be a drawing of End.
Really?
As to what he's supposed to look like.
Mashima drew that, huh?
Supposedly. Did you see it?
No.
Well, I thought it was, I mean, I didn't think it was, supposedly he did, but whether or not that's what's going to actually end is actually going to end up looking like, I don't know. Let me just quickly pull it up.
Yeah. There's always concept art as well.
Well, I mean, that's what it is. It's supposed to be like a concept art for it. You know, and so this is what people are going to be basing their...
Yeah, concept art isn't usually
and
the final result either.
As it's, you know, right above it's supposedly... Now, here, I'm going to send you the link, but it's like, you know, it's put it in the description, and above in the description it says, because apparently I guess he, because it says update, so I guess like after he posted the video and the link, I guess he like looked over it again and kind of sort of had an added thought that he put in there, which was that he added the note that it's supposedly, apparently the image of this person looks like something similar to what he drew a character for in Rave Master. I don't know. You see it?
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay. Interesting.
Now, that's theorized that's... But, I mean, who knows? So...
No, it looks pretty good. I mean,
it looks good, but I mean, like, what, you know, If that ends up being the look, fine. But question is that going to be good enough, or what is the story going to end up being?
Right.
That's the question on everybody's mind. Is what is the story going to be?
Right.
So in the meantime, for this week's chapter, I'm gonna say it was I'm gonna give it a good. It was pretty good. Got some. We got some story progression, yet timeline progression didn't actually happen.
Technically, yeah. Yeah, I'd say it's an alright chapter, I guess.
Yeah. Alright. I'm gonna say...
Why don't we go with Naruto next?
Alright.
Yeah, because there's not a ton to talk about. There is, a bit of discussion with Naruto, but it's kind of pretty simple, I would say.
Yeah. So, ready?
Yeah, so, we start off kind of with the talking in the white after the clash between the two jutsu, and it's, they're kind of talking about how... Now, Naruto brings up an interesting point, because this is something that some of us have been saying.
Have been already talking about. Well, to basically simplify, we're still going to talk about what they said, but to simplify the main points of what was discussed, it seemed like he was basically writing into these characters' word bubbles his answers to some of the questions we've been asking. Now, the first one, alright, so now continue with your thought.
Yeah, the main one I was thinking of was the thing about the whole common enemy thing, where Sasuke says, he's going to be the darkness, and Naruto says, well, we've kind of done that with the with the Shinobi Alliance, where we've already done that. And
now, as
so
the
Sasuke
Naruto
has to respond to that, saying,
his answer.
Yeah, saying
everyone. This has been for debate for many weeks, because people were saying there's two basically main sides. The one side is the people who are saying, Naruto's right with the whole Shinobi Alliance. Then there's already an alliance, so that we shouldn't have any trouble having an alliance afterwards. Then you have the other side, which is represented by what is the actual truth, which is said by Sasuke. Which is because what he says is basically what the other side is saying.
Yep.
And that is that the only reason why this alliance happened was because there was a common enemy, and that before they were ready to break out in war between each other. Between the land of light, the village hidden in the clouds, building up their army, and the Anoki of the Stone admitting to using the Akatsuki for whatever reasons he had. So they were preparing to go to war. Now, it probably would have been maybe, most likely it would have probably been a four-sided type of war. You have the Stone versus the Cloud versus the Mist versus the only alliance that would exist, and that's the Sand and the Leaf. Because before this a Shinobi Alliance for the Fourth Great War happened, the only two villages that were in a true alliance with each other were the Sand and the Leaf. And that was because of one reason and one reason only, and that was because Gaara is the Kazekage. And if Gaara wasn't the Kazekage, I don't think they would have nowhere nearly as good relations with the Leaf.
Yeah.
Because, Gaara literally owes the Leaf, not only for changing his life and putting him on the right path, but for saving his life.
Yeah.
So at that point, you knew, even before they saved his life, he already owed belief so much.
Mm-hmm.
So he was already going to so that's why those two already have good relations.
Uh-huh.
So Sasuke pointed out that after this war's over, he believes that if we go Naruto's route, everyone's going to go back to fighting with each other again.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Sasuke is just trying to be the next singular villain that everyone will focus on and will align, everyone will work together to try and stop Sasuke, but since no one can touch his power, it's going to be like a dictatorship, where he basically takes out who he wants, people he feels are bad, and he'll maintain order.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like Batman meets, Batman dictator, like, main villain, like he's going to be like Madara in the terms of that he's kind of mixed with Batman, almost.
It's like Watchmen.
Yeah, but, he kind of goes off into, like, doesn't he go off to, like, another planet?
Yeah, but the whole point was that he would be the
same thing,
enemy,
yeah. It's that he himself, that's the whole thing, is that Sasuke's trying to be that person that everyone is targeting.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, he is so powerful that there's no way they could even stand a chance against him.
Yep.
So, that's why, but he's going to take people out from the darkness, like Batman.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's his whole thing.
Right.
But, after this whole clever response, Naruto comes up with his own clever response. And that's all well and good, but what happens when you die? Your plan is only as good until you die.
Mm-hmm.
But then, the smarter one, Sasuke, comes back with his own response, saying in point that he's going to somehow use the Sharing Rinnegan to make him immortal.
How that's going to work,
I don't know. Is he going to use like a friggin', like when he's about to die, he uses the Shadow Clone and uses the Shadow Clone to use that one Rinnegan jutsu that brings people back to life after he dies?
I don't think it works that way, but
who knows? But
I don't know.
I'm sure with the power he has, but he says that he is confident that he can make himself immortal with the powers he has.
Uh-huh.
And that he will, then forever, for all eternity, be that villain for all eternity by himself.
Uh-huh.
So... And then that's pretty much about what they talked about.
Yeah.
And then after that, they just go back to fighting with the jutsus, but they take this chapter, they decide to take the jutsus to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm.
Sasuke uses the Susanoo as a conduit to absorb the chakra of all 9-tailed beasts that are in the Chewbacca Tenseis, and upgrades his Susanoo again.
Yep.
To a person made out of lightning, I think, encased in the Susanoo armor. Or at least that's what I think it looked like.
I think it's just like the chakra that's taking just kind of like an ethereal type of form.
Well, but anyway,
yeah.
But it starts rocking the lightning attacks in this chapter, just really pounding it out. Now, Naruto, in his 9-tails, mode, where he, is floating inside a giant, chakra form, of Kurama,
mm-hmm.
he creates giant shadow clones of himself, and it's like, what? It's cool, but it's almost kind of expected since he's, Shadow Clone is one of the 2 jutsus he knows.
Uh-huh.
Feels like he only knows 2 jutsus. Rasen Shuriken and Shadow Clones. So, it was kind of expected.
Yeah.
But when he friggin' took 2 other clones and meshed them together with himself to create a Kurama Ashura, a 9-tailed beast / Ashura mode.
Right.
Type thing, and he creates a regular big-ass Rasen Shuriken and then a really big tailed beast Rasen Shuriken and throws them both at Sasuke,
mm-hmm.
who then retaliates with giant, like I think it's like a Chidori wrapped sword or Susanoo sword or something, or
it's an arrow.
Oh, an arrow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it was something like a Susanoo weapon wrapped in light Chidori.
Yeah.
It was like, damn. They are which it's, and of course the chapter ends before the two attacks clash. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I do not think they clash in this chapter.
Nope.
Which makes me think that, I mean, it's still too soon for the fight to end. Like, I don't think it's going to end. Like, even if they are going to end the fight in the next chapter, it's not going to happen at the very beginning.
Right.
Because, you know, with these two jutsus colliding, creating an explosion that defeats Sasuke, but not Naruto, or Naruto, but not Sasuke. No, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen is that's going to... Because if they're on this level of technique, they got to be almost done. I mean, we only got 3 more chapters left.
Right.
So, in terms of, you know, story progression, it's good. I give it a good for story progression because of the fact that we got certain questions answered.
Yeah.
Like, you know, oh, and I forgot to also mention the one note before is after Naruto creates his clones, Sasuke gives Naruto a low blow by saying that the fact that he is a master of Shadow Clone Jutsu is further testament to his loneliness.
Uh-huh.
Which I feel was like almost like giving him a low blow.
I thought it was funny.
I mean, yeah, it's funny, but it's like when you think about it, I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Like,
your words.
Like, if it wasn't for Shadow Clone Jutsu, he would have never become a Genin to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's like, damn. His go-to... He couldn't master the Rasengan or the Rasen Shuriken. Or 90% of the jutsu he learned in the entire series he learned because of Shadow Clone Jutsu. I mean, you know, in DBZ, they accelerated training with the whole, you know, hyperbolic time chamber. But Naruto, he accelerated his training by using shadow clones and having every shadow clone train.
Right.
So that's like, the fact is that by saying that, it basically almost undermines everything he's done. Because it was all done because he learned the Shadow Clone Jutsu. That's why I feel it was like a low blow, you know, a nut shot.
Certainly.
So, and the fighting was good. I thought the fighting was really good. You know, some people were complaining about this, you know, this new look for the Susanoo. But at this point, it's just, let's just ride it. Let's just ride the wave.
I guess.
I mean,
I don't have any.
We could complain about it later, after the series is over. But I mean, should we really waste our breath now, when we're really hoping for? You know, when we're still in the back of our heads thinking, oh, we only have 3 more chapters left. We got to see what else they do. You know, we don't. So, overall, I would say it was a good chapter.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to, like, I'm unsure. That's my rating, unsure.
What do you mean? You could also say you're neutral.
Well, I don't even know. I'm completely unsure.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that's, you know, I mean, it was very simple chapter, so not much to discuss, but it still has much relevance due to the fact that it's almost over.
Right.
So, I think that just about does it for Naruto manga.
Yep. So now I guess it's time for One Piece.
One Piece was there was a lot of progression this week.
Yeah, what about, hold on, that color spread though?
Oh yeah, the Halloween themed color spread.
Nami and Robin? Oh yeah.
Yes, I know. Now, let's see. Well, first of all, what we have to begin with is the fact that we learn that, this was, I don't know, somehow made everyone happy, but pissed off at the same time, finding out that Corazon has the Nagi Nagi no Mi.
Uh-huh.
Now that was, people were like, oh, it's kind of cool, his power, the whole thing, where he can create a barrier, a soundproof barrier, so he can talk without anybody hearing what he says outside, and what people say outside can't be heard inside, so that's cool and all, but that blew everyone's, like, the majority of people's, because almost everybody was believing the theory that Corazon was going to use the Opi Opi no Mi power that he would supposedly get, or already had, and was going to use it to heal Law. But now that theory just gone out the window.
Yeah, everyone thought he was going to use the perennial surgery on him to keep him, like...
Well, actually, the other thing, it was either that or, as we all saw in Punk Hazard, use it, Opi Omi no Mi, to remove the poison on a cellular level, which Law was able to do.
Right.
So, but now it's like, nope, I'm not actually, and then he's like, oh, by the way, I'm not actually, and he gives the Aunt Tall's Law that, yeah, I can talk. I'm not actually mute. I was just not talking to anybody to hold up this facade. Of course, he tries to also play off that his, idiot, the idiot things he does are also an act, but they're not.
No, he still burns his shoulder.
So that makes it funny. Now, then he basically explains, and we find out that, Law just basically tries to take this information, and he's going to bolt and tell Doflamingo. Corazon tries to stop him, but Law just, throws him into the trash. Which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Because, even though Law's had to have gotten stronger, being part of the crew for 2 years, Corazon's an adult. Seriously. But that, again, just plays into his, Clumsiness.
Yeah.
But then, just when Corazon gets back, he finds out Law didn't squeal on him, as kind of repaying him for the favor he did in not telling Doflamingo that he stabbed him. Now this is where things get interesting. We actually start to see Corazon's caring side, and how he's like, when you stabbed me, I didn't feel pain. I felt your pain that you had in your heart. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And then he basically makes a declaration that I'm going to take you on a journey to help you heal your sickness, even though you only got a year to live. And then he makes an interesting phone call.
Yes.
To Admiral Sengoku. And everyone's like, wait, what? And this is where we find out that he is a spy for the Marines. He's a commander.
Yep.
And everyone's like, when the fuck did he have time to join the Marines, become a commander, and then get assigned to work for his brother undercover for the Marines? You're like, what? And then to make matters worse, you also see in this chapter Virgo, in his younger days, getting ready to transfer to G5.
Right.
So you're like, oh my god, Oda, really? You're going to make a reference to... Was it Goodfellas? Wasn't it Goodfellas, where the cops had the mole in the mob, and the mob had a mole in the cops?
I think so.
Or was it The Departed?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm sure AZX would know the answer.
Probably.
We can ask him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they kind of set up for something like that. So if you guys know, and you've seen those movies and you know what we're talking about, that's what they're kind of sort of saying, is that they're setting up for that. And if I remember correctly, the good guy dies, which we already know the good guy is going to die. Which is why it makes it kind of weird and awkward. Because we already know that Corazon's supposed to be killed by Doflamingo. Now, we see how, Corazon tries to take of course, the other interesting thing before I move on is that to note that Virgo was the first Coruscant.
Right.
Coruscant, which is interesting to note. I mean, we already knew that it was kind of like a position.
Yep.
With the whole thing that Law, you could have been the third Coruscant.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, and then, so with that, we move on to the scenes or the panels, I should say, of them attempting to go to the various hospitals to see if they can heal Law's sickness. Now, in each one, they're like, ambulance sickness, call the police, call the Marines, quarantine the kid, whatever. And then Coruscant just ends up bashing their brains in and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this chapter, yes, it got rid of a very popular theory with how Law was going to be healed, but it produced an even more crazy and more popular theory as to how Law is going to get healed. And and that's all solely based on the fact that in the last place they are seen, or should I say the last island they are seen on, is a snow island. Now, do you know what theory I'm talking about?
I'm assuming because we're talking about snow that Hiruluk or what's her name?
Dr. Kureha is now the most popular theory of how Law's going to get healed.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are theorizing that because just by the sole fact that where they are at this point is snowing, they think that they're going to go to Drum Kingdom and get healed by Dr. Kureha, since, if I remember correctly, that this was probably, around the time or just before, I think, what's his name took over, I think, based on how old Chopper is, because I think, like...
Yeah, I think at this time Hiruluk was still alive.
Well, Hiruluk was definitely alive. I know that for a fact.
So I think it could be either of them if it is on.
Well, no, Hiruluk wasn't very good though.
Yeah, that's kind of true.
So, like the fact that it would, but see, that's the other reason. Now, here's another but this also produced an even crazier theory about Dr. Kureha.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, and this is so far out there, it's like, how the hell would anyone even think? Why would anyone think this? And that is, some people think that the reason why Dr. Kureha is so old is that because someone used the Oppiopi no Mi's best attack on her, making her immortal.
Huh.
But then again, I don't believe that. It's an interesting theory that if it's true, cool. If not, I just chalk it. I mean, ever since I first saw her, I just chalk it underneath the anime old people excuse.
Yep.
Because in anime, there's for some reason in anime, they always have old people that are a lot older than normal humans can live.
True.
So so when I saw it, I was like, alright, she's just one of those, like freaking, like in DBZ, Roshi, at the beginning of this Dragon Ball was like 800 years old. So you're like, shit, this guy's old.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I just chalk it underneath that, the stereotype of anime having old people that live to be several hundred years old.
Yeah, of course you have like Ichiryu, Toriko, 1,000. He was like 1,000 years old.
Oh my god, at least 1,000. At least 1,000.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, they got gourmet cells.
True.
Which is probably that theirs isn't chucked underneath that whole. I mean, yes, it's still the trend, but you don't chalk that up to just it's just a mystery that anime old people live that old, get to be an insane amount of age. I chalked it to all the old people in Toriko. That gets chalked up to the many reasons why gourmet cells are so OP.
But yeah, back to One Piece.
Anyway, back to One Piece.
Yeah.
So, and then the chapter ends off with Doflamingo calling Korra's Dendemushi.
Mm-hmm.
So now this is where more theories come about, because people are like, okay, Is he calling this expecting to hear Corazon because he knows from Virgo that he's a spy? Because at this point, since we now know that Corazon's a Marine spying on, well, Doflamingo for the Marines, we presume that Doflamingo learning this is how Cora's going to be killed, is the reason why he's going to kill Corazon.
Of course.
So, with that in mind, does he already know this, and that's why he's calling? Or is he calling expecting to talk to Law? Because he has to let Law answer.
His face is too sinister at the end to not know.
Well, Doflamingo always has a sinister face on.
Overly sinister for his standards.
So, well, that's also his Dendamushi. And them having the faces of other characters is always creepy. So it adds a if the face is supposed to be funny, it makes it funnier. If it's supposed to be menacing, it's more menacing. It's supposed to be creepy, it makes it more creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So it could just be the fact that it's the Dendamushi just making it extra creepy or extra serious. But who knows? We'll have to wait and find out. Thankfully, this is only, I believe, the second chapter. I don't know how many chapters it's been since his last break. Because usually he takes a break after every 3 or 4 chapters. I mean, it varies.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, overall, I liked it. I think it was a great chapter.
Yeah.
Good. There was plenty of story progression, and especially with the whole, the creation of the bond between Corazon and Law that we've been hearing so much about prior to this flashback happening.
Yeah.
That was one of the main things that was confusing us, because we learned before this flashback started, all we knew was that Law was super fond of Corazon, and that Doflamingo killed him, and that's why Law wants revenge. So this flashback, and we were all confused because when the first part of this flashback, we learned Law's backstory with the whole, the White City and all that other stuff, and the disease. And when we first see him meeting Corazon, you see Corazon just dissing him and I don't like you.
Uh-huh.
And Law doesn't like him, so it's wait, how the hell did they create this bond? Well, in this chapter, we finally got to see the creation of this bond that has fueled this revenge plot.
Yeah, I thought it was a great chapter because, one, I really do like Rocinante. I think he's a great character.
Mm-hmm.
And
unfortunately, it's going to be sad to see him go.
Yeah, just from the amount of chapters he's been in, I think he's been great. His interactions with Law, especially in this chapter, were really good. I think it's so far a flashback's been pretty good. I'm enjoying Law's story a lot. He was always one of my favorite characters since Punk Hazard, and now Law is.
You are your mind. See, that's an understatement. Law is probably in your top 5 favorite characters.
I don't know.
Oh, come on. You are figuratively holding your breath, waiting for who they're going to cast for English dub Law.
Yeah, well, that's because one, Ace has been dubbed, Sanji and Zoro are dubbed, and I don't know.
Shanks has been dubbed.
Shanks, you got Shanks, Mihawk, and Whitebeard, and there's so many of them. Law, definitely, I would say, if Law's flashback, depending on how this ends, this whole arc ends, Law should be in my top 5, definitively.
Mm-hmm.
He most
now,
likely
as we've said in a previous podcast where we were reviewing this, I said to you that we were talking about how it's possible that, depending on how this arc ends, since the Straw Hats plus Law are going to have to go to Zoe, where the crews are, that whole theory we were coming up about how Law's crew gets annihilated and Luffy's crew gets captured, and this leads to Law being free to join as a Straw Hat.
Mm-hmm.
since we're going into his backstory so much, and his backstory is so heavily tragic.
Yep.
Like that's the Oda's trend.
Yep.
That first of all of his most characters that get a backstory in Oda's in this manga have been tragic, especially for the Straw Hats.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was always meant to try and be as tragic as they could. Now some were more tragic than others.
Right.
But the fact is that as so far, Law is seeming at this point to be the most tragic,
or at least up there.
Up there. I would say, let's see. Well, if I had to pick, if I was to group Law in with the Straw Hats and say out of all of them who had the most, like if I had to give like the top 5 most tragic, I'd probably pick like Robin as the most tragic,
mm-hmm.
and then maybe like Nami, then Law, then maybe like Brooke, and then like Zoro.
Yeah, I guess.
Because maybe not Zoro. I mean Sanji's.
Like Zoro, Sanji, and Luffy. Like the monster trio don't have nearly as tragic as like Robin. Like Robin's is my favorite of the Straw Hats.
Well, Frankie's isn't really that tragic. I mean,
it was, but not on the same level as like Chopper or Brooke.
Okay, Chopper. Oh yeah, Chopper. So if I had to get a top 5, I'd probably say Robin,
mm-hmm.
Nami, Law. I would say then maybe like what was the other one I said? Yeah, Chopper, and then maybe like
probably Brooke.
Oh yeah, Brooke. I was like, yeah, Robin, Nami, Law, Brooke, and then like Choppers would probably be the top out of that group of people. The Straw Hats plus Law. That's what I would say would be the top 5 most tragic backstories.
Right.
Because I still feel that like Nami's was like, damn. Like
mm-hmm.
Robin and Law's backstory is bad, but like when you look at it in comparison to Nami's backstory and Robin's, it's like, damn. Like that's all you can say is damn. Because I mean, Nami's adopted mother was shot and murdered right in front of her, and then she was forced to work for the guy who killed her mother,
mm-hmm.
her adopted mother, for 8 years before meeting Luffy. That is just, oh my god.
Huh.
And then Robin's was more tragic because of the whole fact that it was kind of like Cinderella went wrong.
Yep.
I felt because she lived with her relatives who didn't treat her well, and she basically did their chores for them, and it felt like Cinderella. But then instead of getting a happy ending, it just got worse.
Yeah.
It just got worse. And it was right around the time where she was starting to feel better because
mm-hmm.
she started to make some friends with the archaeologist and the giant, and then her mother comes home, and then they just get wiped out, just obliterated, and then she has to go on the run for the rest of her life because everyone tries to cash in the bounty, betray
mm-hmm.
her, and cash her in for the bounty.
Right.
So it's like, damn. So, but this, like I said, this chapter, I say was a great chapter.
Yeah.
I guess you know what time it is.
It's time for Toriko.
Stadium! Not yet.
Not yet.
Alright, ready?
Yeah.
So first of all, this chapter was called Endlessly Surrounded. Now, when I first read the title, I wasn't sure what to think about it. Because but it wasn't until but then when the chapter started, you started reading and it was like, so that's why they call it that, endlessly surrounded. Just simply put in scale. First of all, as we learned in last chapter, the scale of the island, of the continent, was nearly twice the size of the entire area of Earth. Which is already big enough.
Yep.
But it is inhabited by 5 billion monkeys. Now, that was astonishing enough. But after they explained the ranking system, the fact that the newcomers, the weakest members of the island, out of all the 5 billion monkeys on the island, the weakest ones could murk the 4 beasts, it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Like, damn. That's gonna be my quote for the week. Damn. Because it's just, and then it just doesn't stop. They just don't want to stop.
No.
Not only do these monkeys have a high capture level, but just like the 4 beasts, they can instantaneously raise their capture level in order to to lessen damage they take by rearranging the damage and then basically sending it off so that way they don't take as much damage, if any damage at all.
Right.
Which makes them even more dangerous. And these are the least skilled of this fighting style. And then, all the techniques that were displayed were phenomenal. Freaking Zebra comes out with, for no reason whatsoever, first he does this whole, death noise thing, which kind of almost sounds like, basically what it sounds like. It's that, any creature that hears this is supposed to die. Mm-hmm. But then this one ape, catches itself before it falls and tries to go up against Zebra. Zebra, within a blink of an eye, for no reason, pulls out his gourmet monster's arm and just beat punches the monkey's head off.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Fucking Zebra.
Oh my god. And this was before we knew how beastly these creatures were.
Uh-huh.
This was before we learned that there were 5 billion apes and the whole system made it, and that these guys were the weak ones. And then this monkey regrows its head, I think, or reattaches it, or whatever. It's still alive, and still kicking, and punching, and whatever else it does to fight.
Uh-huh.
Now, of course, there was kind of funny when you saw the various monkeys that they were gonna fighting, Toriko seemed to be fighting like a salsa monkey. It looked like it was drunk or something.
Yeah.
And,
of course, Coco's fighting somebody who uses yaaaaay, or iaido is what the whole name is, which is, yaaaaay jutsu is all about quick draws and...
And then, of course, as usual, Sunny is pitted up against a very ugly-looking monkey.
And it's
a Medusa-themed one. And he's like, I have a feeling that I shouldn't look in the eyes. As the monkey's eyes are have that, anime, shiny thing, shing, shiny.
Right.
Now, I think the funniest out of all of them was Zebra's second monkey opponent.
The Buddha.
Friggin', I think this monkey has reached enlightenment. It must not fear death. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Now, this chapter, in all honesty, one of the things that this was a very ironic chapter because of all the times that Zebra complains that these creatures that he faces off against are so cocky, Zebra is so cocky in this chapter.
Uh-huh.
Oh my... And then, out of nowhere, as we presume to be one of the 4 instructors, pops, oh my god, he's so huge.
Uh-huh.
And we believe this to be one of the 4 instructors. Not Bambina himself, but one of the instructors. Some people even think it might even be an assistant instructor. Or master, depending on what, translation you're using. But the fact is that the fact that this creature that we see that is even bigger than Heracles might not even be Bambina. Even if it is an instructor, the fact that it's not Bambina just tells you that, oh my, how powerful. Like, honestly, the power that they're going at this point, I think that they might not get casual galaxy level, but it almost feels like by the end, if the 7th area is this powerful, like, it almost makes me feel like they might be, like, at, like, solar system level by the time they finish, because of how, like, quickly they're going up in power in terms of the enemies. And Bambina's not even the strongest. The dragon in Area 4 is supposed to be the strongest.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense. Because it should be, the strongest should guard God, but whatever. That's going to be the Battle Wolf.
Yeah, most likely.
But it just makes you think, like, how strong are these? Like, how strong are the 4 Heavenly Kings going to get by the end of the series?
I don't know.
Like, we thought Heracles was OP.
Right.
But, like, Heracles might not even... It is that people are saying that Heracles might only be strong enough to be, like, assistant instructor, or maybe, like, that level right below it. And I'm like, the most important thing I take from this chapter is that it 100% proves the statement that was said, like, 2 or 3 chapters ago, that Bambina dwarfs Heracles' power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you weren't a believer before, you are now.
Yeah.
Like, now we know why they say that. Now, the final thing that happened was a chasm opens up and they fall underground into these underground ruins and are greeted by a Nitro offering to guide them.
Yep.
Now, we can't tell if it's a blue Nitro or not. Most likely not, because blue Nitro are being portrayed as being enemies, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
But,
it's probably not blue.
It's most likely not a blue Nitro. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens next.
Yeah.
I mean, are they going to travel underground to the center of the continent, or wherever this tree is located?
Who knows?
I mean, because they can't go back up to the surface, because they were surrounded. So if they go up back to where they were before, they'd still be there.
Uh-huh.
So I foresee this guy leading them in this underground area to the tree.
Probably.
And then they'll come up at the tree, because if they were to go up top, they wouldn't get very far, because they'd still be fighting all the monkeys. So it's going to be very interesting to see how like, at first I was thinking, okay, you know, it's going to be all 4 of them taking on Bambina. But at this point, I'm like, it might take all 4 of them just to take down an instructor. You know, maybe they might not even they might have, who knows? Like, the main questions there are 2 main questions that have popped up in this chapter in most people's minds. One, what the hell's up with this Nitro in this ruins? And 2, how powerful is this continent gonna get? Because at first everyone thought that it would, you know, as we go on from continent to continent, either one or all or some combination of the 4 Heavenly Kings would fight the 8 king that's on the island. But the fact is that this leap in power is too great for the 4 Heavenly Kings to be taking on the Bambina. Like, I don't think they could even take, like, at best, I'd say they could probably be an assistant instructor. Maybe an instructor. I don't know how they're going to impress Bambina. Because, I mean, that's just... Like, because I also get that feeling that it's going to be the same thing with each 8 king, is that they're not necessarily going to kill it, but they're going to, like, fight it and earn its respect.
Yeah.
Like they did with Heracles, but I just don't know how the hell they're going to do that with Bambina. As him being as powerful as he's being made out to be.
Uh-huh. Yeah. You never know.
And then, like... Even, like, when they first... Like, even within this whole chapter, when they introduced the whole system, you figure, okay, when they mentioned, oh, there's 4 instructors. Oh, well, that must mean that each instructor is going to be fighting one of the Heavenly Kings. But then you're like, wait, hold on. But then in the same chapter, they show you how powerful, the potential power of these monkeys and the higher-ups, that it makes you think that they might not even be able to handle an instructor with all 4 of them against an instructor. So, it just... This chapter was a very good chapter, but it's just like the sheer scale of power that is that's being presented to us is just insane.
Yeah, I'll say.
Like, and like I said when I was talking about the prospects for this area back when we were still in Area 8, not only is Bambino going to be strong, but what is his special ability going to be?
Uh-huh.
Because, the special thing with Heracles was his lung capacity and how he eats air, the air around him as his nutrient source, and he can create a vacuum. Like Bambina, I still hope that his power is insane, or it's being made out to be insane, but I still feel like he's going to have something else that's special about him that is going to conveniently be counteracted by someone who eats the pear.
Yeah.
Because I still feel that that's going to be a thing, is that, Oh.
Yeah, probably.
And even after eating, air, even the fact they have their one arm of their gourmet monsters, it's still the prospects are. Even though Toriko has produced his these jet techniques and did a moving Kugi, I still don't know if that's going to be enough. That's the scary part.
Of course it won't be.
No, because I already said that when it happened, is that if Mugen Kugi is happening now, it's not as powerful as we thought it is, and he's going to have a way to make it even better, like Jet Kugi, Mugen Kugi.
Uh-huh.
Or friggin', twin Kugi, Mugen Kugi.
Giganto Jetto.
Yeah. Which is actually kind of funny because that's what I don't mind. So, that's, I think, about it. Like I said, it was a really good chapter of Toriko's.
Yeah. Definitely. Alright, so before I get into Bleach and Shokugeki no Souma, I have a piece of news, if you guys don't know already, and that is that Kuroko no Basket is coming back in the manga. Fuck yes. Oh yes. Yes. Kuroko no Basket is back. It is continuing sometime next year, and it's picking up where it was left off, I believe so, according to the Anime News Network article that I read. And I'm very happy right now. Of course, I've known this for at least a week, but forgot to mention it last time. So, thankfully, with the shit ending of the original manga, it's not going to be a shit ending because now we're going to continue. So, anyway, Bleach. So in Bleach 601, we have a very short progression here because, well, actually, I would say for Bleach's standards, it's quite big because Oetsu basically kicks the shit out of all of those elite guards, and there's not really much else to talk to about. I don't really want to talk about his sword. I mean, it's mostly self-explanatory, but there's two things I want to talk about here. The first one is the fact that the guy in the hood was not shown really hurt, so I'm skeptical about him being down. Two, I'm also skeptical about the rest of them being down permanently, especially. However, when it comes to the death dealing, Sterner, the guy who looks like Aizen a little bit, he's definitely impressive because Oetsu says specifically that he was able to dodge it, like just enough to avoid being a lethal strike. So he's able to follow Oetsu's speed, who is able to speed blitz the sniper dude. So that's kind of monumental, I think, because when it comes to his ability, it seems like he can't die, or it takes a lot to kill him. I'm going to say it's much like a homunculus in Full Metal, where it's extremely difficult to kill, but it can be done. So that's that. I think the death dealing is going to show off more than he kind of thought that he would do, maybe. We kind of thought he would do with regards to the other elite guard. So we'll see. That's basically the chapter. I mean, Oetsu's impressive. Still haven't seen Tenjiro again, so whatever. And so, I mean, it was a decent to good chapter. So, lastly, we have Shokugeki no Souma. Now, in this chapter, we have Hayama and Kurokiba finally facing off, and so far it's a good match. And basically, the point of this was, Hayama has the nose, and Kurokiba has this, like, almost animal instinct in order to win, and he has the drive to win. So it's basically, this perfect nose versus this perfect, like, drive to win, Something like that. And we see them start to prepare their dishes, and we see that Hayama has gone for duck, and we see that Kurokiba is going for eel, and both seem like kind of odd choices, except for, I can't even call her the attitude chick anymore, but the sun chick has now is now smiling at the prospect of him using duck. So I don't know, maybe he wants Hayama's D, I don't know. His poses, like, Hayama's poses are great. Like, I don't want to say they're on JoJo level, but they're certainly impressive. And then Kurokiba is also quite impressive in his own way. He's preparing his eel perfectly according to Erina. Then, of course, we get Alice, who comes in, and at this point, Alice has become my favorite girl character in the series. Quite possibly my second favorite character after Souma. It's kind of hard to say. I ship her with Souma now over Todoroki, but that's never going to happen. But, so, we get some in-story praise from, especially Alice to Kurokiba, saying that, like, the score is pretty close between them, and that, she said she can't get a considerable lead, which is interesting enough because Alice was very well hyped, and she almost took the match from Souma, so I would say Kurokiba wins this still. I'm still saying that Kurokiba wins this, even after seeing the Raw of the next chapter. I'm just saying, it seems like Hayama has a chance. And so, in my opinion, this is good because it's kind of ambiguous. It could go either way at this point, but I'm still leaning towards Kurokiba. He's the one that beat Todoroko. He's the one that got hyped up by Alice, and a person that is presumably just a small step above Alice, who was able to come very, very close to beating Souma. And so in that case, I do think that Kurokiba wins this, and then Souma has to fight him, or, cook off against him. Not really fight him, but we will see. It could be Hayama, because of, the whole beginning part with, the spices and the curry, but once again, that was supposedly his main dish, was curry. And he only beat Souma by 1 point, if I recall correctly. So far, Hayama's not as impressive as Kurokiba, in my opinion. But it'll be close. He did take it convincingly from Hisako, who is pretty good too, so I will say that Hayama at least has been pretty impressive, but not quite as impressive height-wise or even feet-wise as Kurokiba. So that's it for Shokugeki no Soma. I thought it was a good chapter. I'm enjoying this battle so far. And that'll do it for our manga section this week.